No, no buzz. Just Bees Book Club. Um, Today is My Annihilation by Fuminori Nakamura. Fuminori Nakamura. I can't fucking say Nakamura. Like Jesus. I think this book is bad. I don't. Yeah, I don't like it. I just finished it. I don't have a ton to say. I don't think. I didn't just finish it. I just finished it, and then I was about to start today's No Buzz, and then I realized that I was probably gonna talk a little bit about the movie Unsane by Steven Soderbergh, and I went to sort of brush up on that. I did the thing I sometimes do where I like looked up the author a little bit, and then I looked at the things that I'm considering talking about. And I went and watched the Found Flicks um, summary of Unsane, which, holy shit, I know CinemaSins gets a lot of shit, and deservedly so. It's a terrible format and gimmick, and it's just a bad way of understanding media. Found Flicks isn't that. It's just a fucking seventh grade book report with a dude yelling at you through the entire thing. I think it's Jesus Christ, what a miserable experience that was. Um, it was useful, I guess, in that in the way that like reading Spark Notes can be useful if you're willing to think about the the way that the Spark Notes utterly fails to capture a thing. And if you're like me, somebody who is very excited to hear um, somebody's very bad breakdown of a thing that you have experienced before in such a way that the thing that you didn't like somehow becomes more likable because of how poorly it has been interpreted. Um, yeah, Unsane is a movie I did not enjoy at all. Oh, there's my earring. Yeah, my I think my left I think my left piercing closed in the last couple days, which is great. Um, I'm really mad about it, and like a lot of things in my life. So maybe that's influencing my perception of My Annihilation, but I don't think it really is. Because Unsane is a movie where Claire Foy plays a woman who has PTSD from stalker. She goes to sort of get help or like to enter into a possibility of some sort of therapy relationship with a for-profit medical institution. Gets tricked into signing papers to give her a voluntary stay. Her stalker shows up there. It turns into a weird slasher movie. These are all true things. The things I'm like, I think that Foundflix interprets very, very poorly are like, I do think the movie has a pretty solid critique of the for-profit asylum institution, and I think it even kind of has a critique of the sort of media representations of asylums. It it foregoes that critique, I think, and just turns into a fucking another thing about like mental institutions scary, weird camera tricks, that's a representation of inebriation or whatever. Yeah, I don't whatever. Still don't like that movie. Still think that movie's a lot better than this book. Um, My Annihilation by Fuminori Nakamura is coming out next month in January of 2022. The sort of high level is that it's a book. It does some fun. The reason I was interested in reading it is it does some fun sort of metatextual shit. Um, like again, can't read these things when I put them up, but you can kind of maybe get a rough idea. You know. Oop. Yes, this is the beginning of the book. Very straightforward narration sort of thing, and then you get to this bit, and it's like, oh, he's reading a manuscript. Um, There's a bunch of the beginning bit is the reading of this manuscript. There's stuff like skipping too much later. It's like a blocked off article. Oop. This side, not this side. This side. There's like blocked off articles about brainwashing and serial killers and shit. There's like, yeah, like the again, you can't really see this, but it's like a oh god, what are they called? Monospaced font or something like that. I'm blanking on the term. It's like all of the letters in the font take up the exact same amount of space. There's a specific term for it that I used to know and I haven't thought about it for a while. I think it's like career is like one of them. Um, you would know it from it being sort of the representation of like computers in a lot of text, but that's transcript. So there's like transcripts, there's journals, there's a bunch of other things. I'm actually going to read from actually the this is not a spoiler, even though it's from the literal end of the book. I'm going to read the entirety of the afterword to the paperback edition. This came out in 2016 in Japan. I think this is from the 2019 paperback by the author. Afterward to the paperback edition. This novel is the paperback edition of my 17th book. Questions about what it means to be human and what it means to exist in the world are central to me, as they are for many authors, and in this book I wound up exploring these questions at length. Looking back, I suppose one reason why these questions are so central to me is that when I was little, I was unable to honestly accept, in other words, get used to, the world for what it is. The story was born in the wake of Cult X and The Night You Disappeared, both previous novels by Nakamura. Personally, I suspect the structure of the book owes much to my experience with another of my novels, Last Winter We Parted. I also think the atmosphere of my earlier work shows up here in places like the stack of pages, that's in quotes. While the same applies to all my novels, this book turned out to be a special thing to me. The final passage with the telephone, as some of you might have noticed, is something of a tie-in with another of my novels. If this book, whether in its overall shape or in its details, has brought about some kind of feeling in my readers, then I consider my work as its creator a success. 27th of May, 2019, Fuminori Nakamura. And then there is another thing that follows that. This is actually a moment when like showing the page kind of like is useful. This is the end of that afterword. There's all this blank space, and then an author's note. It's in a parentheses. I don't know if any of these are going to show up in the final book. But this is the one I read. This is the advanced reader copy that I was given access to. It's by Soho Press, by the way. They seem to have published most of his work in English. I think Sam Betts, the translator of this, has been Sam Bett. Sorry, the translator of this has been his translator primarily into English. But yes, parenthetical author's note at the end of this. While it is often said that the results of experiments with subliminal messaging were fraudulent, it is also said that a different set of similar experiments clearly demonstrated its effectiveness. And I want to pause there. Because who could imagine more non-committal language? A different set of similar experiments clearly demonstrated its effectiveness. That's nothing. That's a lie, is what it is. Continuing. For the sections on Tsutomu Miyazaki, I mainly use reference materials to access the facts of the case, but the analysis of his character is my own. There really was a person like Taka in his life, but following the practice of my resources, I opted for a pseudonym. And there's a bibliography of books on mostly the sort of serial killers that are referenced in the text. Okay. This is a book about a dude who is a psychiatrist who falls in love with one of his patients after giving her psychoanalysis in a way that he's not particularly trained for, who enters a relationship with her, and that relationship involves ECT, electrocardio, electro, shit. He, it's a, it's electroshock therapy. Um, she comes from a place of being abused and must like for her childhood, um, throughout her childhood rather, ends up um, as a sex worker, and then is in a relationship with this man who comes to understand that she was abused by her previous psychiatrist, who happens to be the man who recommended her come to him. Um, she eventually she has multiple times attempted uh, to die by suicide. She eventually does in the book. After he gives her such intensive electroshock therapy that she forgets literally everything about herself. The plot of this book is about this man sort of enacting a revenge narrative on the two men who ultimately caused her to die. The way he enacts that revenge is that he sort of goes through the electroshock thing and hypnosis and psychoanalysis to replace. His attempt is to. This is spoiling this whole fucking book and whatever. His entire plot is to use again electroshock and psychoanalysis, see things, but mostly hypnosis, to turn them into him so that they can feel all of the devastation and loss that he has felt around the death of this woman. He does this by also talking about the ways that he was very was abused as a kid by his mother's boyfriends, his own like desire for his mother that turned into violence, his sort of half attempted murder of his sister when he was very young, and I think that sort of covers the long and the short of it. I I talked about Cinema Sins a second ago, because I do genuinely think the TV tropes approach to criticism is dog shit. The cinema sins is dog shit. The sense that if you're experiencing something that you have a name for means it's bad or problematic is genuinely not a useful way to approach most fiction. This is the most fucking a man is driven by the death of a woman bullshit that I have read in a very long time. I also wanted to read that author's note, and the thing about how he's very curious about being a human or whatever. The specific line in the afterword, questions about what it means to be human and what it means to exist in the world are central to me. Um, hey, I mean, maybe for someone else, this has productive questions about what it means to be human and what it means to exist in the world. For me, this is a very boring reiteration of like masculine alienation and um like cycles of trauma that don't actually respect the the experience of trauma either in the moment or in its its rising, what one might call PTSD. um I hated it. I hated it. I really, yeah. um I finished it, which doesn't mean anything because I'll finish anything. But yeah, I don't know. Read some Yoko Ogawa. I didn't love Miyoko Kawakami's books, but read some of her. Like, I don't know, read some fucking OA or like Abe or anything. I don't know. What yeah. I think Takashi Miike's movies are gross in many of the same ways, but do much more interesting things because they that are being visually even. Yeah, this was a fucking bummer. Honestly, I don't I don't like I whatever. I'm a hater, but like I don't like hating shit. I hated it. Thanks for not watching.